You all said it.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me unmute you 1 second, please.
You are unmuted.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I call to order the Carroll County Board of Commissioners meeting for July 8th. Would you please join me in the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions to the agenda?
Yes.
David?
I'll try to give you the short story. I wrote to the county attorney and asked why all of there was about 20 charges on a credit card, all the same. She wrote me back an answer and said, I have a question for you, and she then questioned if this she said, I have a little question for you. If this was a little question, I don't want to see the big question. And, she was questioning the payout and accrued time for Bonnie, and she wanted to know whether I wanted her to call the Department of Labor and have somebody come in and give us a talk on salaried employees versus hourly employees. And I wrote her back a nice note and said, this isn't my decision, this is the board's decision. If the three of us want to hear you, well, we'll go along with it. But it's not my decision. Why don't you come in and talk to us today at the commissioners meeting and tell us what your problem is with Bonnie's payout. And it came down to basically the salary part and Ken's statement that he said that if you work, I forget what it was, one day a week or 1 hour or something, and you were on salary, you had to get paid for that week. And she said that's not the right interpretation, and that's when she offered to have the call and have the Department of Labor come in. So anyway, we ought to put that in. Maybe we'd call her in and ask her if she wants to explain that.
Is she aware that you are going to put her on the agenda for today?
No, I wrote and asked her why did she come in. I want to discuss it. And,
So maybe what
it is. Who is she to tell me, ask me to tell us that she's going to call the Department of Labor? That's a decision of this board. And I said, why don't you come in and explain it to us? And I haven't heard a word.
Okay, so maybe we should put her on the agenda for next week and a discussion of salary versus hourly? Is that the
That
crux?
was the crux of it, yeah.
Would you do that, please, Lisa?
Yes, I apologize. I didn't hear who she is. I didn't hear the beginning of your...
The county attorney.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So we'll do that next week.
Okay.
All right. Any other additions to the agenda? Okay. I await a motion for the approval of the minutes for July 1st, 2020.
So moved.
Do I have a second? A second. Are there any additions or corrections? If there are no additions or corrections, could we have all those in favor of accepting them say aye?
Aye.
Aye. No more roll calls.
Yay.
Okay, maybe can remember that. Are there any media
Yes,
questions?
perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any public input?
Yes, I do.
Representative Cordelli.
Oh, somebody's here. Oh, I thought that wasn't working.
Yes, Representative Cordelli.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. To follow up on our delegation meeting last week, I would like to offer several suggestions. First, that the commissioners be CC'd on all communication with the auditors and the Avenue Financial System vendor. Secondly, that the commissioners review planned access and security for the new Avenue system, and also provide for public access to the system. Third, have the Avenue vendor perform the training for staff rather than burdening the financial manager with having to do that. Also, based on my 30 years experience, I believe it's imperative for the commissioners to form a committee to work on plans for implementation of the accounts payable and purchasing system modules. I was wondering also if a supplemental document has been issued in relation to the 2018 annual report with the audit results as according to state law. And finally, I see that our delegation chair is on the meeting, and I hope maybe she has some answers from her discussions with the auditors. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Is there any other public input? Okay. If not, go on. The manifest approval for the week ending July 3rd, 2020 was $103,719.84. And we will start with today's first is the Carroll County House of Corrections Superintendent Jason Henry, and he's here to discuss what he's done in the past 2 months, just to give us a review and an update. Hi, Jason. Come over here and join us. I don't think the camera's working.
John just fixed it.
Oh, John just fixed it. Okay, so we're up to where we should be. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Tough getting old. So for update, we'll start with staffing. Currently, we have 2 open officer positions, which we have been testing some candidates. We just finished an open corporal's position testing. We're going through results on that, so hopefully in the near future we'll let you know who the new corporal is. Right now, medical, I am down 1 nurse on medical leave. We've been filling in with the agency, but the hope is that she's going to come back soon. Over the past couple of months, with all the stuff that's going on with COVID, I have put a person in charge of cleaning and waxing to do, enhanced deep cleaning. She's done a fantastic job, Officer Guerin, and all our floors inside the building have been re-waxed, buffed, and it's really looking really nice inside there. I'm happy to say that our new maintenance director, Steve Rafalski, has started, and he's shadowing Joe Boyd, because Joe Boyd is retiring August 18th. So that's going well. Updates on the COVID, no positive inmates or staff. And if you don't want to write those down, I have a copy for you, commissioners, if you don't want to take all those notes.
Do you have your staff and inmates tested on a regular basis?
As in COVID testing? No. Do not.
Could I have a copy?
You want me to do that? Makes life easier.
Oh, that would be helpful. Thank you.
I did bring copies. No, look from Melissa.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I have to take all those copious notes.
Thank you.
What we do, we're doing the temperature checks, the screening every day. All new intakes, well, it's on here too. All new intakes get screened. They also, between the forms, the temperature checks, and everything else. We're still in lockdown mode, next door at the jail, which means no visits, no volunteers coming in. Obviously, any attorneys still can come in and they use the non-contact visiting booth. And if they have to have not something above that, we have a classroom that is not inside the secure perimeter and they can social distance and be able to meet with their clients. Plus, we have attorney phones outside each one of the units, so they have plenty of access to the attorneys. They still have access to the law library, which is all online, so no issues on that part. Right now, we have plenty of PPE, plenty of cleaning supplies because we loaded up ahead of time, so we're doing pretty well. Let's go with some stats. In May, we took in 81 males, 22 females, total of 103 book-ins, released 77. Average daily population in May was 42.68. At the end of May, we had 57 inmates end of May. 4 Rockingham female boarders, which was $7,103 off of boarders. 2 New Hampshire State Prison females, $3,481.30. 5 Stratford at $3,420.
Are those men or women or both?
Stratford is usually men, but every now and then there might be a female. But that's why I just leave it blank, but those are mainly men.
Jason, do you want us to ask questions as you go along here, or?
Whatever works for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead, if you have a question, ask.
You have 81, 22, total of 103 take-ins, release 77, daily average 42 and a half. Do you by any chance have a statistic on how long they were here? The take-ins, were they here, it came in at 10 o'clock after a good night out and went home at 8 in the morning, or?
I have another report that I can run that says anybody's been here over 24 hours.
Over 24 hours?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So I can.
Did you add that? in?
Yep. Yep, this is
This
kind
is
of,
a
I
good report.
want to figure what you wanted, so.
I like this, I really do.
I do too.
24 hours. Yep, I can add that, that's an easy one, but, you know. Beyond, I'd have to check every single email with the time left, but I can run a report that says anybody that's been here over 24 hours. June, male intakes 87, female intakes 20, total of intakes 107. We released 71 during that time. Average ADP during June was 38. End of the month, we had 59 inmates. Okay, we had 4 Rockingham female boarders for $6,550. We had still 2 New Hampshire State Prison females at $3,469. 4 Stratford inmates at $1,920. Looking at the stats from January till July 6th, total male intakes was 315. Total female intakes 134. Total of 449 book-ins. And during that same time period, we released 413. Average daily population from January to July 6th, 51.09.
Jason?
Yep.
Why, if 2 females from the state prison in June and July, why are the figures different? Excuse me, from May and June.
Is it 31 days? Is there different days in a month? No,
Yes.
that's one more day in a month, right?
Is that what the answer is?
Yeah, I believe that's why I looked it
That's
up.
a difference of about $70. Is that what we get a day over there from the state prison?
Yeah, $55 a day or something.
Okay, thank you.
And depending when they leave the day that they leave, or if they're court, you don't pay for them, so it's always going to fluctuate. Budgetary stuff. Right now, we've expended 43% of the budget. No areas of concern as of yet. We did spend quite a bit on supplies. We still have supply money left, but a lot of that's coming back to us from the Gopher Fund.
Does your gopher, is that under the Mountain View's gopher also, or is yours separate?
Separate. Well, I mean, we're all going there, but Kathy, we have it all broken out. She has it broken up by departments and what you spent, and you have to label it.
Right.
Revenue through June that we've billed out, $131,657.70. I anticipate a slowdown with reduced borders but we're going to be close on our revenue anticipations of 206,500. We start out strong. Obviously, because of lockdown, where state prison's not sending us any right now, and neither is Rockingham.
But we already have two.
We have two. They're not going anywhere till they're released, but we just won't get new ones. And Rockingham, same thing. We won't get any new ones for the time being until this kind of passes. So that's kind of where we're at with this. I'd also like to, I didn't put in here, just add, on weekends, my wife and I deliver for a food pantry. And in the middle of nowhere, there's came across some guys that build picnic tables, nice slabs of wood, and I'm talking heavy slabs. So I purchased a picnic table, my own money, to donate to the staff, which is being stained right now, from these guys in the woods, and this thing should last 25 years. It took 6 of us to load it, 6 of us to take it off. So it is a very heavy picnic table. I've been wanting to get a picnic table for staff for the past couple of years. We have a nice concrete pad up front, and I've bought that to donate to them.
Thank you.
Is that going where the girls normally do the wood?
No, it's right in front of the jail where there's a concrete pad right next to the flagpole out front of the jail.
Oh, out front.
Yep,
Oh, okay.
for staff. Yep.
Nice,
And it's being stained right now.
nice.
I'll donate to staff.
Thank you.
Very generous of you. Thank you.
Yep. Well, these guys in the woods are pretty funny guys. I rolled in. I'm like, "What are you guys building? Picnic tables." All right. What we charge here, folks? It is heavy. It's the 2-inch live edge.
Real 2-inch.
Yeah. Joe Boyd said after it's stained, he's going to ask the farm to bring the forks over to pick it up, move it. He doesn't want to carry it around the building. It's heavy. Trying to think of anything else we have going on right now. That's kind of where we're at. If you have questions or concerns, or
I'm amazed that they're arresting so many people.
yeah, I mean it slowed down. I think you're going to see a big bump come fall. There's a plethora of backlog cases, and the courts start opening up. I know that Coas was the test county to start doing opening courts, and then Carroll is slated to be next. So we're going, and I've been working with the courts. So somebody's coming in. We talked to them saying, "Listen, we'll take the short terms. We'll take them some now because it's easier now to do the 14-day quarantine while a lot of people aren't coming and staying." So the courts have been giving us self-reports and other ones so we can quarantine them. The concern, and this is every jail concern, is when the floodgates open in the fall, if we get a large influx, we're going to have a difficult time managing to quarantine them 14 days each. So we've been shuffling and figuring out Tetris of what we're going to have to do when we start getting those more intakes.
Yeah, but a lot of these 100 people that you're arresting are going out within 24 hours.
Yes, quite a few. Yeah, they get bailed, or they're protective custody, and then some stay for a few days. Some are pretrial, some are high bail, but a lot of them are heading back out.
But they're all quarantined while they're...
So they stay in processing, and if they stay with us, they go down to unit and quarantine for 14 days before they can go to general population. Or we keep an eye on them, make sure they're not having any issues. And if somebody showed signs or symptoms, then we would take them out and get tested.
Right. So when they come in, though, you put them all in the same holding tank?
We try not to, if we can. If we have to, again, like protective custody, we know they're going to be leaving, you can put them in the same holding area. If you have somebody who has bail and you think is going to stay, we try to use the other cells to keep them separated, so that way they're not contaminated by maybe somebody else. And, so it's trying to do the best you can down there and seeing who might stay. And they all have to wear masks when they come in down there.
David, you have a question?
Yes. Jason, how are we doing on recidivism since we started these programs? The first reason we hadn't had any figures was it was too soon after we started the programs. But we've been in them now, I think, 3 years or 4 years. What are the results?
Back then it was like 18% recidivism. I believe it's at 22%. And I can have, if you'd like, I can have Jim come to the next meeting with stats if you'd like.
was 18 and now it's 22.
Yeah, so it means we got a couple back.
So it means programs aren't working less now than they were before.
No, the average is 50% of recidivism. So bring it down to 22% is doing really, really well. You're gonna have setbacks, and that happens, like drug court and everything else. So we're doing pretty well.
But those are just people that were here and have come back here.
Those that went through the trust program, left, and then if they came back, yes, if they came back here.
But it doesn't count those that went to state prison or went to prison in some other.
Some other capacity, no, we wouldn't know.
Why, that's a good point, Amanda. We're paying a lot of money for these programs. Why, we got computers everywhere, why can't there be a cross-reference if somebody gets picked up for drugs in another county that we don't see? Why isn't there a master list? There's a master list of sex offenders, there's a master list for everything. Why can't we have a master list for people that have been graduated from or supposedly graduated from a drug rehabilitation program?
Well, there's not, first of all, the jails aren't linked on data-wise to do that. That's one. Two, you have multiple programs. Every jail has some sort of program like we have, plus you have drug court. And so how would you tie all those lists together, and who's cross-referencing them on a regular basis? So it's not like we have one database where we could all go to in just a cloud, and it could be ciphered out through an algorithm or anything like that. It's not connected.
But there is a jail site, I believe it's a New Hampshire site, where you can put a person's name in.
State prison has that,
And it's for all county.
not for counties. State prison has one.
It tells you where the person is if he's still in jail, if they're in, ooh, I didn't mean to say he. If the person is still or is reincarcerated, it tells you where they are at the time.
Again, so you'd have to all the time be looking, and that's, it's not exactly like the easiest method.
I wonder if a random testing periodically would work to run how many people have graduated from that program now?
I'm not sure. I'll ask Jim. I don't have that, but I can get that to you today if you like.
Because it must be getting close to 50, huh?
I think so. We slowed down obviously with COVID a little bit, but I can get you how many. Because right now we've been doing a lot. Right now we're also doing a lot of reporting for the government because we're in an audit for the grant that we had. So we're in an audit period right now. So we have a lot of data.
So you don't have, they're not going to classes now?
So they're individually. Groups are not happening. They're not happening in any of the jails because you can't mix. So we're doing individual, and we've curtailed the program to a more individual basis.
So can they go out and work on the farm?
No, nobody's going out because they're going to be contaminated out there, and then I have to try to come in and quarantine them every single time. So we won't be able to do that.
Say that again.
If they go out here,
To
and
work?
they can be subject to anything, be exposed to anything. When they come back in the building, I have to put them back in a quarantine unit for 14 days because they've been exposed outside. Those that are already inside the jail, they're fine because they've been inside of here. They've been here longer than 14 days. We're not worried about them. It is the contamination from new intakes and staff. So, and knock on wood, nothing in there so far. A few of the jails had a couple staff members so far, I think, and one of the jails had some inmates, but
The state too, didn't you?
state too, yeah. So we're,
I think the county's doing absolutely fantastic, and that's why I'm trying to do anything and everything we can to support everybody to continue that. But I just, the idea like David, of them being contaminated out working in the hayfield just doesn't
Doesn't
make
ring a bell
sense.
with me.
No. But I can understand.
Unless geese carry it.
No. No, and I don't think it stays on hay either. Hard surfaces maybe, but that's all right. Any other questions for Jason? You have any questions?
No.
David?
No,
And
I think it's a really good report. I'd like to see a couple of additions that we just talked about, but other than that, it's excellent.
okay, yeah, and I'll get those and I'll get the numbers back to you guys wanted to as well.
Yeah, would you like to do this monthly or is it every other month?
Whatever you guys want.
Well, our schedule is set up for every other month.
That's fine.
I had asked Jason for it every month, so that we know exactly what's going on every month. And I have to say, Jason, that you must have access to my computer, because I have the same, I have an Excel spreadsheet that has all these questions on it that I was gonna give to you.
When you leave your passcode, the name of your dog, it's easy to get in.
So, that's okay, I'm just happy that we have them, so.
I mean, monthly's fine. I thought these were gonna be monthly anyways, so
Yep.
that's what I thought the goal was.
Well,
to
no,
do
there's
monthly.
too many department heads to do it. We just did it. When we set it up, it was just however they came and it was every other month, but that's fine.
You can just email this to us at the end of the month.
And then if we have any questions, you can come in.
Sure.
That way we don't eat up too much of your time, because
Yes, I think that's a good suggestion. Send us at the end of the month, send us this report with the current month that we just completed, and if we have any questions, we can zoom in on you, or you can come over.
Yeah,
that's the county, the registry does that too. I think that's sufficient. We don't have to have you physically present to spend an hour here.
no problem. I'm glad I get your questions before you got to me.
Mind reader here, oh, that's kind of scary, isn't it? Is there anything else you want us to know about what's going on over there, or with the jail in general, or?
People are, it's still a lot of high anxiety, obviously like everybody else with the COVID. You know, we have, and what's going around the country in law enforcement in general.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of conversations about that, about being safe in the community. You have a badge on your shirt, but you don't carry a gun, so be cautious, maybe change before you go home. So making them aware of what's going on and just talking about the news in general of their surroundings. But that, again, it's a lot of high anxiety. It's not an easy job. The inmates are frustrated. They've been doing pretty well because no visits, but, you know, phone calls they get plenty of and stuff. So they've been holding up pretty well. But again, everybody's got anxiety and trying to keep everybody level-headed. So far, they're doing really well.
They still have iBooks that they can contact people at home.
They still have their tablets. They can,
tablets.
yeah, they can e-message back and forth. They get phone calls. So they have that contact on a regular basis. I know it's different than not being able to see somebody, but until this kind of gets lifted, emergency order's lifted, and we can take a look at it. But knock on wood, we've been doing well. Staff's adjusted. I mean, like everybody else, wearing a mask all day long and trying to get used to it.
Yeah.
They're showing up to work. I haven't had any issues with people not showing up to work. So that's
This is a big smile under this mask.
So that's been good. I'm very fortunate that way. I think, in general, this complex of people have been coming to work, what I've been hearing, so it's good.
We have a very dedicated, wonderful group of employees, and I don't know how to thank them enough, and I think the governor sending extra money for them, I think was, you know, just a small drop in the bucket as to the appreciation that we have for them.
The first responder stipend pays either being paid this week or next week, so, to the staff.
And they're gonna get that in one lump sum, right?
Yes,
Is that gonna be extended for July?
has not.
Has not been. The other.
Only the nursing home, but it's not for first responders.
Sounds good. Any other comments from either of you? No? Well, thank you so very much.
So I'll be back. Melissa, any time frame you think?
Jason has a request for a non-public. I didn't put a time on the non-publics. Do you want to be here in person, or do you want to Zoom in?
I'll come over first.
Okay.
Let's see.
I don't have any time.
Let me see the schedule. I don't think there's a whole lot on here, and we'll do you first in non-public, so if no one has any objections.
The treasurer's not here this week, Madam Chair, so maybe 11:30?
No, I wouldn't think it. I don't know what time it is because our clock is,
It's 9:37, I know the clock just keeps spinning.
I would almost say 10 o'clock.
I can hang downstairs for a few minutes, step running back over, running back, so just,
Okay, I'll come find you.
Yes, but if you're downstairs talking to someone, please wear your mask.
I wear my mask.
He always does.
I always have a mask on.
I didn't say not, I made a simple
Oh, it
request.
should be noted that he always does. Thank you for doing that. I don't know.
Okay, or you can hang out up here with us, I don't care.
Oh,
Oh, by the way, I would like to thank you very much for monitoring all of the calls, et cetera, from the Association of Counties. I know Howie is also a lot of them, and so is Kathy, and so am I when I can. But just really appreciate it, because I think the more ears listening to all of this, the better for everybody. There's just so much information coming through.
was there a meeting this morning on due structure? I think 9, but none of us can make it, so.
No, I couldn't make it. And I think there's one on Friday.
Friday, don't we have an executive one on
Get
Friday?
executive on Friday, and then this afternoon is another administrator meeting at 2, which I'll jump on that phone call.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Actually, I'll just hang out here.
Okay. Next is the 91A procedure. David, you had something about that?
Yes, I'll make a motion so that we have some discussion. I move that no 91A responses go out to a requester without the approval, without an approval from the majority of the board.
Just one question. Does that include that we got your request and we will answer it within 42 days? That has to go out within 5 days. Does that include that response too? Or the meat of the response?
I'd have to think about that one, because I wouldn't want someone to say, oh yeah, we're gonna give you an answer in 21 days, when in reality it's gonna take 40.
I think the standard response is 45.
When we get a 91A request, we have to respond within 5 days that we receive the request and whether the information is available or. So what we've been doing is when we get one, respond, we have this, thank you, we'll be in touch, essentially. If we can only send that response with a vote of the board, you don't meet within 5 days. So that would be out of compliance with the law. So we should be at least able to respond that we've received their request.
Just to refresh my memory, the request comes to Laura, she records it, marks it down, and she sends like an automatic response that says we've gotten it, and
Actually, no, it's my responsibility and my job description that the request, I respond to the request.
or the request comes to Laura.
They either come to Laura, sometimes they come to me, and sometimes they happen in a meeting. So, but we're trying to make sure that we document all of them, so I make sure that Laura puts it in the book as well as the response, any responses as well.
So she's recording them?
Yes,
Okay.
yep,
All
she's
right,
logging
that's-
them all, yep, yep.
I guess I don't have any problem with sending out within 5 days. But when it comes to what we send out, and my signature is on the thing, I want to have seen it before it goes out. I don't want anybody answering for me. I'll give my vote, and if it agrees with the other two, fine. If it doesn't, then, but at least the board has taken a look at it and appropriately decided what our answer is going to be.
Okay, isn't that all public information that goes out in 91A? Nothing
Right.
personal goes out, right?
Right.
Okay, so your motion is you want the commissioners to see what public information is being sent out in response to the 91As.
Yes,
Just see it or approve it before it goes out?
approve.
I'll second that for discussion.
May I?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's public information, if we have the legal right to say, I don't want this going out. I mean, I don't know. What's the legal ramifications? If it's 91A, they're asking for it, and it's public information, I can understand why you're saying that, but I'm not sure if we have the ability to do that.
Well, Terry, we might get into a situation where you think that the information should go out, and I, for some reason, don't think it should go out. Then I think the board ought to have the approval. I frankly object to our very capable coordinator answering a 91A. I think that's our job, not hers. She can do the work, and we approve it or we don't approve it. But I don't want my name on anything going out that may or may not be liable, who knows. In this day of courts, I don't want my name on it unless I've looked at it and willing to take the responsibility.
Aren't they just facts? The responses just are the facts? David, is that what a 91A response is? They're just facts, right?
Well, it's facts, but the law says if the information, we don't have to make, I forget what the word is, we don't have to make up any material to go out. You might say, well, the information is already here, and I might say, well, no, it's we have the information on another spreadsheet, and we have to compile it. We have it, but we don't have it, and I think we're going to get in a problem somewhere along the line. Maybe not right away, but I just object to anything going out with my name on it that I haven't approved or disapproved.
So you don't object to Melissa doing all the research in the background and all of that, and
No.
handing us and saying, well, this is what I'm ready to have sent out.
Correct.
And
And we're
then,
not in a squeeze on 5 days, so if we have to go the 7 days, another 2 days, it's not a problem.
so that way, if there's something left out or something added or whatever, the commissioners take the responsibility instead of having it fall on Melissa.
Yes.
Well, I think that's probably a good idea.
I mean, we've got
She can
the
do all the work.
last 91A request from Cordelli has some stuff in there that, as I look at it, it isn't on a printed sheet, but we've garnered the information along the way, but we haven't put it on a single sheet. And so do we need to send it or don't we?
I'm just looking up his request while you're talking, because I wondered if something precipitated this, so I think in your packet you have a copy of did I copy it for you or just send it on your email?
We sent it
The
out on the
policy,
email.
the current right to know policy, so
Yeah.
it is
It
by
wasn't
the,
in the packet, I don't believe.
all
No,
right, I just
it
sent it to
came
your
on
email then, okay. Because you do have a policy that's 5 years old, if you wanted to review that policy maybe, and if it's gonna be a change in the way we're doing things, we could maybe look at that. I'm just looking for.
I think according to that policy, we have to approve it anyways, don't we? Or did I misread that?
Well, I'm just a little,
Well, we haven't been approving them. They've
I
been going
know,
out.
I know. That's why I was a little shocked when I read. I thought that's what I read, because it was midnight, so I'm not sure.
I just want to make sure I'm following the intent of the board, because also, I mean, the law and the policy says if the records are immediately available, then the person can ask to to wait a moment and see them right then.
Right, if they come in, in person.
So do I need to?
For
call-
example, if you came in and said, okay, I want to know how much Commissioner Bevard was paid for for travel.
Mhm.
Then it's right there in the folder, you open the folder and there it is, and they can look at it. But if you're going to take pictures of it, they can take pictures, but if you're going to copy it and stuff, then we charge for the copying.
Right, so would I need permission from the board to let them look at that folder? And what is the difference between them coming in, and this, I'm just asking this for clarification.
No, that's it, this is a good
And
discussion.
what is the difference between them asking in a meeting versus coming in the office versus sending an email? So I want to make sure that we're following the board's wishes, but I need some clarification.
Well, I think a lot of the information is pretty clear. If they want your travel, that's listed on our expense sheets, and certainly they can see that. It's the ones that are getting somewhat technical that I worry about.
So, can I speak specifically to the request from Representative Cordelli? Because this is a good example of what they look like. Would that be okay?
Yes, I would think so, because that's all public.
Okay, so he sent a, yeah, and the
Because
right
he
to,
just said it this morning in public input.
and the requests are open to the public too, the logbook, anybody can see what's in there. So he sent this on Friday, and he's asking for 4 different items, and he wanted, for example, he wanted copies of all propane invoices for deliveries between a certain date time. So that's a matter of going to get the folder, copying the invoices and payments, and charging for the copies. So that one
But if you take
seems-
electronic copies, we can't charge them, right?
That's what it, yeah.
But that would be if
And he requests it electronically, so,
Copy, he doesn't, in this number 3, he just says copies of all invoices and payment checks. He doesn't say an electronic copy. So I would ask him for clarification and tell him how much it was gonna cost before we did it.
So you just scan them and send them.
Yep. So that's one of them. He asked for a list of all charges with details, all
well,
charges.
excuse me, Melissa, right there is a good example. We have the invoices and we have the bills, but we don't have them in the form that he's requesting, so do we have to send them?
Well, he's asking for copies, so I would tell him how much a per page is, and if he would like to pay that fee, then we'll make
Okay.
the copies for him and put them in his mailbox, or after he pays.
But
Or-
if not, if he just wants you to scan them and email them, there's no charge for that,
No,
right?
there
No.
isn't. But we are now making up something that we don't have.
Well, we do have it, we just have to send it.
No, we don't. We don't have it in electronic form. We have to go and scan it and do it. That's part of the question I'm raising here on whether it goes out or not. I would say we're making there's nothing to hide, but, you know, we have to, the law says if you have it available, we don't have it available, we have to take your time to scan it, sit down at the computer and send it.
Well, when the law says if it's available, does it mean,
In the format that's
Yeah.
being requested.
is that what the law means?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So I interpret that, if I might, and I've always is that if he or anyone else sent me a request and said, I would like these 5 data sets put into an Excel spreadsheet, and I'd like you to analyze the percentage difference over a course of 10 years, you know, asking you to actually create a project, that's not a right to know request. If you want a copy of all those data, if you want all those data sets so you can create your own work,
Yep.
here it is.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do extra special. If this came as a request from the whole delegation, from the delegation chair, or a vote of the delegation, that would be different. I could create a
Right.
project for them. I've done it in the past.
but,
But if it was extensive, I'd let the commissioners know that you know, have this project and ask the commissioners to weigh in, but,
I think if it's facts, if it's just facts, which invoices are facts, that's one thing. But if it's asking for any kind of interpretation,
right,
if it's asking for what percent of the total budget is her transportation, then that's not a readily available form. That requires some intelligent manipulation. And that, I would think, would not be a 91A request.
That would be not past muster when somebody's asking for a report.
Right.
You're creating something.
Whereas if they wanted to look at all the
Travel
budget and they wanted to look at all of mine and they wanted to do their own manipulating of the figures, then that's fine. We'd send them all those facts and they'd have to come up with their own.
yeah, that's the way we're doing it now. He also asked for a copy of all charges to the 4100 account, which you have in your packet.
Oh, is that what those are?
Yep. So that's a detail of all the line items in the commissioner's budget. That document had already been created because it was requested by Commissioner
But see,
McCarthy.
now I don't consider that a detail.
Yeah, that shows all the checks that have come out of every line in your budget this year. So I already had it, so I just sent it to him. It was already created, so I fulfilled one part of his request so far.
All right, but it doesn't say to whom. See, I wouldn't call that detail. There's no, it doesn't say to whom.
I think it just says the purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah, either overtime, administrative, or,
Right, it doesn't, he, you know, and he might ask for more detail, the commissioners might want more detail, and then we can get the finance director to add a column or provide more information. Or he can also come into the office and he can have the folders for those specific things, like cell phone bills, and he can sit down and look at them all. Or supplies, all the supply invoices or whatnot.
you know,
So that's public.
I had always thought when this 91A started, that it was a good idea that people could be able to look at anything they wanted to. But I was under the impression it would be, they would come in, they would say, okay, I'd like to see this. They'd be given a folder and sit down and look at it. If they wanted to take pictures of it, that was fine, and that was it. This bit of printing papers and putting things from paper to computer and then sending, that I'm not sure that was part of the original intention of the 91A, was it?
I don't know.
Electronic formats have made it a lot, much difference in the law, you know, the way that we handle information and.
I did have a question on this, I guess I probably should go to Kathy, but why are we still showing paying a phone for Robichaud?
You might look at the date in that one column. I think it's the second column.
Is there any dates? I don't.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a date. It's hard to, but it is. I don't want to get too close to you, but it took me a minute to figure that out too. This is a date. This is a date.
These are the dates?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then that first set of
So
numbers after
the
the
first
dash.
column is the dates.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be January, February, March.
Okay.
Well, there's no March, it's just, how come is that? It goes from January to February, no March. April, May.
Depends on who's going into the column.
Well, yeah, there's March and there's April, but there's no, this goes through June, but there's nothing after April.
Maybe it's on the back page.
I'm assuming it's just that we, recycled his phone. But-
Yeah,
We
I'm not
did.
sure.
Yes, but I don't know who has it.
Question for Kathy. I don't know if those are the special entries.
Actually, I think John cleaned it, right?
I thought so.
And I don't know if the bill comes in. Do you guys get separate bills for each phone or one
Yeah.
bill for 12 phones?
No, separate one for
Oh,
each.
okay.
Each.
So I understand Commissioner Babson's concern that things, and this is the first I'm hearing about the concern, but, and so whatever you guys want to do, obviously, just would recall that twice since I've come on board, we've gotten right-to-know requests that I was uncertain about what to do, and they went to the county attorney's office. And she prepared the response, and she's been following up to make sure that where we're at with them. One of the requests, and it's public information, one of the requests was for all my emails that I had sent during a 2-month period, and that another employee had sent in a 2-month period. Well, there's a lot of potentially sensitive information in there, and how much of that is actually a governmental record, so I consulted with the county attorney, and she prepared their response and gave me some guidance on how to format a cost for that, and that's been emailed to the requester, and I haven't heard anything since.
Well, that's sort
So
of,
that's one example of, well, you know, being able to judge if something's just propane bills or if it could potentially be something else. But I'm happy to share them all with you. I don't.
that sort of cements what I'm saying. You've mentioned that the county attorney's done all this, and with you, the 91A came to us for requests. I haven't heard a word about it.
I did send you all the county attorneys.
You sent that, but if
Letter?
she's had any other discussion, which you just said led me to believe you had, we haven't got a thing. And it's gonna go out and say that we approve it or we disapprove it. And we haven't even seen it. And that's just doesn't work for me.
Okay. And we did talk about the follow-up and the cost of it in a non-public, but I made you aware that day, but I'm more than happy to.
So David, what if,
I just didn't want to inundate you with every little request, but if you'd like to see them all.
I was just going to say, what if she just copies us on any communications about 91As with anybody, the person requesting it or the county attorney, and then if we have any questions, we can stop it and bring it to the meeting.
Well, that's certainly better than, in my opinion, better than what we're doing now.
Well, that way we'll be totally informed as from
Yeah,
step
then
one.
we can chase anything we want to chase.
So that everything that comes, if Laura would just, from the time she gets it, to record it, send us a copy, and then whatever communication you have with the person, we get copies of that, and then at any point, we can say, oh, Melissa, this is a problem.
Any communication on that 91A request?
So next week, do you want me to put the policy on the agenda so you can amend that?
Yes.
And
It probably should be amended and looked at anyway because it's 5 years old. There may have been changes to procedures or law, so.
the thing that I really don't like, and that is when we get verbal 91A requests, I think maybe we should ask that they all be put in writing and sent to Laura.
And you
I
can't do
think
that.
that's in the process, in the procedure, isn't it?
You can't, I'm sorry, but the law doesn't allow for you to require people to put things in writing or to give you their name.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But doesn't the 91A request have to be written
No. You
in
can't.
our procedure?
You can't require that. No. I'm sorry.
Well, that doesn't make any sense, because
We
somebody
have
can
to
just say,
respond in writing, but
I,
they don't have to request it in writing. I can stand in the back of the room and just ask for something, and that's why I'm keying in every week on the minutes, because I don't want somebody to frame a question in public comment as a request for information and then it to be overlooked. You have to be very cognizant of that.
But I think they have to state it's a 91A request.
No. Nope. If you were reviewing something and in public comment, I could say, I want a copy of that manifest. Well, there's my right to know request from the back of the room. It's really that
Maybe we ought to, yeah, I've been asking since I came here to have a class on 91/8, you know,
I can set that up for you.
again one, because you had one. You
Yep,
and-
right down the municipal association.
Yeah,
Yep, the municipal association offers those, and I'd be happy to look into that for you.
would you be interested in going to another one?
Sure.
Would you? I think that would be very nice, Melissa, if you could set something up for that.
They're doing electronic meetings, it's not in person. You could do a webinar.
But we could all come here and do it together.
Yeah.
Is a webinar a two-way communication?
Yeah, usually, they
You
have,
have to answer
yeah,
questions.
sometimes they ask you to kind of submit your questions ahead of the meeting so the moderator can get a handle on where the conversation's gonna go, but, yeah, usually.
And maybe we could ask anyone else that's interested in the 91As, they could come in at the same time.
I was just thinking it might be good for Chris
Yeah,
Yeah,
to attend.
I would love a refresher always, and I would like to include the administrative assistant in it as well, since she's actually handling them.
well, and maybe if any of the delegation members would like to come and be refreshed as to some of the interpretations of the 91A. And because again, that's one person's interpretation, and even if they're doing a webinar, I'm sure that it's one person's interpretation.
And a lot of times you'll get case law, they'll talk about case law in those classes, which is really important, and how the courts have interpreted the law, so.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, now there is a motion before the board, and I cannot remember exactly the wording. Do you have that?
To approve all public information in response to 91A requests prior to sending it out.
So you want to keep the word approve still in there? Or just be informed of all of it so that we can stop it at any time?
No, I'd like to have the approval, because why would you send out something you don't approve?
Can I ask Commissioner Babson a question?
Sure.
Commissioner Babson, would you mind if we just held this vote until we review the whole policy next week? Would that be okay?
If we review it next week, yes, I don't have a problem.
Can we make a motion to table it until July, what's next week, the 14th?
Well, the 15th already.
July 15th.
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor of tabling it until July 15th, say aye.
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 Thank you for that.
And then you have a list on your agenda for tabled items.
Yep. I can
Or
add
you
that to
did
the
have.
bottom. Yep.
All right. Next is the 4100 report. David?
I got this thing, and the very first thing I saw was something like GL, I don't know, I read it to Terry this morning when we were looking at the agenda. I didn't know what it was until I got down. I understood the purchases and that stuff, but I didn't know why we had everybody's overtime and salaries, but now I do.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I want you to know, David,
Should match this.
that you had me trying to figure out what a 4100 report was, and I came to the conclusion that it had to be some sort of a commissioner's report, and I didn't remember doing it. So now I feel much better that that's all it was asking for this. And what did we discover about this? This is something you asked for, Terry?
I did, and I'm still confused, so I'm still trying to figure it out. But
So, Terry,
eventually I will do that.
just to tell me, what did you ask for?
I asked for a detailed report on the commission, and this is what I got, yeah. So,
Detailed report for what?
for the
4100.
4100, just for the commissioner's budget.
All right, and what you were really looking for, I think,
Yep.
wasn't this.
No, it was actuals.
You were actually looking for the drop-downs.
Yep.
And I don't know what those drop-downs are called. I thought they were called details
Yeah,
also.
me too, but this is,
What are you talking about, drop?
You know, when you, like at the budget season,
Yeah,
we get one of these and we have the drop-down that shows that, it would say the administrative assistant was so much money, and the bookkeeper was so much money, and the Commissioner Bevard's travel was so much, and Commissioner Babson's travel was so much. That drop down, it's another, you
it
click on,
just breaks up what,
yeah,
yeah,
it breaks up the totals, yeah.
it clicks on that, so.
Would you like me to ask her for that? Would that help, or you would pass that?
No, I'm past, I think I got, because I came in and got some other stuff, and I just haven't had time to
Okay.
go through it yet. So I'm okay for right now.
Okay, just let me
Okay.
know.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, David? Yes,
I,
sir.
I wasn't so concerned with the salaries because they're pretty much set. But when I got to office supplies, it really bothers me that we've got somebody over in the nursing home that's capable of buying things. And we have, who gives the okay on these? We've got a business card for Monitor Arms, $69, $70. $82, I'm gonna, if it's over 50 cents, I'm gonna go up, or as Ken would say, round up, and if it's under 50, I'm gonna round down.
Where are you?
So,
Right here.
No, it's-
I'm on page 5.
Okay.
$82, 19 pens business cards. Well, we get a credit for that, why? $34 pens, tape, rubber bands. $39 cork ball board, file folders. $11 file folders. $22 water and equipment rental. $27 water and equipment rental. $39 lanyards and file folders. Now that's free for file folders. $98 for a desktop calculator. Everyone has a calculator on their computer. $48 Lysol boxes letter holder.
Lysol's a COVID
$11 Avery dividers. $465 self-stick envelopes times 10, I guess 10,000. Gold foiled seals. $52 receipt papers and dividers. Calculator ribbons, blinds, water equipment rental, another one. $129 office supplies, that doesn't tell us anything. Shredder and lubricant, $84. Lubricant sheets, $10. Calculator ink rolls, $7. $46 water and equipment rental. Business cards, $20. This should all be going through a purchasing agent, and I'm going to believe with all the office supplies we buy around here, that if Seth sat on this thing for 2 or 3 days, it'd be duplicate for all of these, and we could get a better price.
Okay, I have 2 comments, David. I agree 100%. First of all, most of this is not anything to do with the Commissioner's office. Most of this is to do with the Finance office. And that's why I think the Finance office ought to have its own department and be written up as such. and charged as such, and the commissioner's office the same. I think they should be split. It's good at putting this all together and then you don't know what. But it's my understanding that this purchasing module they're buying is not what's going to help have a purchasing agent. And that's what I thought Seth was going to be a purchasing agent for everybody with a purchasing module. But there's some disconnect in my thinking, I guess.
I think we were all under that impression that we were getting a purchasing program. That was what I thought. And that Seth, we were going to have a purchasing department for the whole compound. I thought that's what we were working towards.
I thought that we were purchasing when she came in, it was all about a purchasing invoice requisition,
Yep.
Putting it where it goes in the general ledger, and that would all help, but we still need a purchasing agent to go out and find
Right.
new prices, new sources, and
And I thought that's
and
what,
that's what I thought, and I said at that time, I didn't think it was gonna solve the finance problems that we have in this office. It's gonna help purchasing, but I didn't think it was gonna help the general mess and trying to keep things straight around here.
Melissa?
And so what do you think we're getting? Is there something new to?
I don't know, but it's not what, I don't think it was, in my mind it's different. I think everyone can put in what they're purchasing, but they're still doing the purchasing. And,
Yes.
and that all goes into the general ledger, so that everyone doesn't have to be entered and checked 4 or 5 times. Not that one person, you put your requisitions all into one person, who would then purchase the stuff and redistribute it where it went. That's what I thought a purchasing agent did.
yeah, that's what mine always did. Each department had, when they wanted something, they wrote up a purchase order, it went to the purchasing agent.
Wrote up a
A
requisition.
requisition, yep, a PO, and he would find it, the best thing, and order it, and when it came in, it would be,
And I think Seth has been doing that more and more for other departments, but I don't know. I don't know if he's, every time I ask Jason about it, it's not, Jason's still purchasing his own things and how he's purchasing his stuff, but that all goes is Seth. Yes.
I just wanted to offer that a couple of times I've come to the commissioners with an order to get the commissioners' approval to purchase things for my office, for the front office, business office, and the commissioners have approved. Those requests have gone over to Seth, and he's very good at finding, the best use of county dollars, that's for sure. And he'll send back, unless you have a specific request for a certain brand, he responds and says, are these substitutes okay? I'm ready to order, and then, communicates, and then off it goes.
that's the way it should be.
The last 2 times he was able to, and when we ordered the supplies for the new HR director, so that's actually 3 times, he's done a great job that way. I'm wondering if, when you go into your next budget cycle, if you might have a discussion about structuring it differently, so that there actually is a purchasing department, and would that require any space perhaps in the old annex to stock up on a few things, or at least having the conversation with Seth and perhaps Howie? I don't know.
Well, we've had that conversation with Seth, and Seth said that he wasn't quite ready to make that move. He was still getting the nursing home organized. I believe that's the last time we spoke with him, wasn't that what he said?
Well, I don't know when it was, but that's what he said.
Yeah.
And then maybe looking with the new purchase order module coming in, and this idea, the next policy to look at your purchasing policy. So, I don't know, thank you.
So does that answer your observations?
Yes, I
And we'll
just-
work on that. And
May I add
Yes.
something?
so,
Along with having your purchasing department, That person is usually in charge of inventory. Do any departments have an inventory list?
Seth has it set up over there
Right,
with his magic wand that they read
Yep.
minimum and max levels. And
right.
because we had, before you got here, Terry, we had a truck driver for a vendor that was, if we needed X, he was sticking X plus 100 in, and we had a huge bill that got out of control, and we put Mr. Squeezem on it, Murray, and the housekeeping, and they straightened it out, but that's what was happening, and because we had nobody in control, but some guy has set it up over there so that we're now keeping track of that
Good.
stuff. He's done a very good job.
Seth is excellent, I believe.
Yep.
He's a very intelligent young man. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. So that brings us all the way to the treasurer's. Oh, office space in the administration building. There isn't.
Oh. I guess we're not discussing it?
I invited the county attorney, perhaps she wasn't able to be here today.
Okay.
Is Bob here?
Bob had just sent a message and he has something he's dealing with at the nursing home and he'll be back. He was on the Zoom, but now he's gone.
Okay.
He was signing on to talk about if you guys talk about the annex, he wanted to
Well, that was,
chime in, so he'll be back.
yeah, that's part of, I think, the solution to the office space in the administration building. We have none. We have all kinds of space in the annex, but the annex right now is being held hostage
Yep.
by the nursing home. How do you like that phrase?
By COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah. And there's,
hostage.
yeah.
Hostage by COVID, yes.
Could the subcommittee, Madam Chair, could the subcommittee get started even if they can't
Yeah.
physically go in yet? Or we have those old floor plans, I have some, I don't know. If that would help at all.
Well, I was kind of thinking that they were going to be opening that up so that we might have the meetings over there for that subcommittee and they could actually see the building, and because it's quite a different, on paper it looks one way, but when you're actually physically present, well, you were there, Terry. It's quite different, and on paper there were some thoughts I had in my mind, but when we actually physically got there, there was some
It looks a lot different.
alterations.
Without people in it too.
Yeah, and I know some people that would be on that committee have never even seen the inside of the building, so.
Howie's on if you want to talk to him about it, or is he-
No, I think that's right.
We should just go ahead and set a date for our first meeting, because we have,
Howie, do you have any idea when the nursing home might be available to be visited? I mean, the annex, I'm sorry. You can't hear me. He's not on. Oh, he's on.
Oh, no, I can hear you. I'm trying to think of how we could arrange it. The limiting factor to the annex is because we have storage and because we have the laundry. And how do we keep it as a clean building as opposed to one that has had people in it? There would be ways, if we gowned and protected everybody and screened and tested, to get people in on a scheduled basis. But we'd have to be very careful about it, but it could be done.
Okay, like the way that Terry and I visited a couple of weeks ago.
Correct, exactly so.
And I could also take, during a tour like that, I could bring my camera and photograph the inside of the building so you'd have those, if that would be helpful.
Oh, pictures are always helpful.
You know,
I
when
think
you-
they're always helpful. Yeah.
You know, if that,
I would think it would have to be at least next week.
I'd say even, well,
2 weeks?
yeah.
Okay. Which would be sometime, maybe around Monday the 20th? We'll have to run that by the different members and see if that would be all right. You coming with us, David? Yes? You're going to be on the committee, right? The three
Yeah.
commissioners, yes.
So would you like me to,
What do you call it? When you say would 10 o'clock on July 20th would you be available?
okay, and that's the three commissioners. Representative, are we accepting the nominations from the delegation?
There were two, right?
Yep, Representative Damaris and Representative Cordelli.
And Leslie had also volunteered. Bob.
And Bob Murray.
And I'd like to see if we might bring in John too, just because of the communications part of it. Because there's going to have to be some there's going to be some limitations because of computer stuff, I think.
So would you like him to serve on the committee or just do a presentation or meet with the committee a couple times?
Be an advisor.
Yeah, good, thank you, I couldn't think of the word.
I would think, because it'd be a while before we have to start talking about that kind of stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah, but he probably ought to be in kind of a brainstorming session just because he could tell right off whether things would be feasible or not. That's the only thing I'm thinking about.
Would you like me to invite him to
20th.
the first meeting, the organizational
Yeah.
meeting? Or, okay.
Yeah.
And there was somebody else from the county, could you guys, I couldn't remember who. I know you had said Bob Murray originally. I would be there to take minutes or pictures or whatever.
Madam Chair, the coordinator is talking very softly. We can't hear her.
Sorry.
Thank you.
And he used my big voice. Thanks.
She had volunteered to go with this first meeting and tour the nursing home and take pictures for us. And minutes.
And take the minutes of the subcommittee meetings, yeah, or committee meetings. Okay.
All right. All right, I think that's that. Why, did Howie have something he wanted?
Administrator Chandler has a non-public.
Okay.
So.
I have a question for Howie when we have time.
Okay, can we get through down to commissioner comments?
Okay.
The treasurer is not here, so there's no treasurer's report and there's no Hales location report. Executive coordinator report.
You would ask for it to be on the agenda today for my job description in the public meeting, so you all have a copy of the draft as it is right now. Chairman Bivard and I discussed some things last week, and those changes are highlighted in red.
I know I had it.
David, I think one of the things we suggested on there that we would change it so that she would be processing the 91A request in accordance with the state law and the county policy.
What are you looking at?
Her job description, this one.
I've got it here somewhere.
You have it, Jerry? Oh, I see.
Got it, yeah.
Yep.
I saw it this morning, so
Yeah, but it's in the packet.
it's in my packet somewhere. Here it is.
See in the middle of the page, there was a 91A, just to
Okay.
process them and follow the county policy. So next week, we can change the policy however we want it. Does anyone have any changes or additions or corrections? I know it's not very long, it's a page and a half.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's short and concise.
reason we added in there where it says schedule appointments and may coordinate trainings and workshops is because now we have an HR director that probably would be setting up a lot of the trainings. But, so we added may because he might want to ask her to help coordinate and set them up, or
Yep.
just like today, we asked her about setting up some 91As. So it gives the option if somebody wants to ask her to help them. Does that sound all right, David?
I guess so. I was, as I said last week, I was happy with the one we had.
Well, this is pretty much the same, we just, changed, I think, will to may or added may, because it gives an option so other people can kind of tap her resources. Did you have any additions or corrections or thoughts or?
No, I shared it with the Human Resources Director to bring him in on it, and he had actually made a few suggestions in adding a section that at the very end that says he or she carries out other tasks as requested in situations where additional support may be required.
Where is that?
Here, you can have this one. His information's in blue. Basically, it's a section that says anything else you're asked to do, you'll do it.
The blue.
Down at the bottom.
Yeah. So he performs all other duties as assigned along those lines.
Does it say who designates that?
Yeah.
Probably.
But it says at the top, reports to the county commissioners, so. And then he also added the pages where you have the physical and mental requirements of the job, like 30% standing, 70% this and that.
Yeah.
I forget what they're.
That's the stuff they all want to put in, and remember how you were so objective to it, it probably says you got to pick up 50 pounds or 30 pounds.
It says 20, thankfully. No, but although I'm not opposed to moving my own furniture. But so he added those pages as well as a suggestion, and I thought that was a good idea. And he also added a section at the top about whether it's exempt or non-exempt. So he had some good input there, and I'm happy with that stuff. And also a signature page, which it didn't have before, just that I accept this.
Mhm.
So,
Or to go in your file. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that legal stuff that,
Yep.
that's what he's
We're not
supposed to.
good at.
We're not good at, we're really good at the facts.
so
And he said it was a non-exempt position, right?
it's an exempt salary position,
Exempt.
so,
It is exempt.
yes,
Okay.
so,
Could you get us a nice copy, all clean,
yep,
with his stuff in it?
sure,
Can you wait for next week?
that's fine.
Do you have any additions or changes or anything?
No?
Nope. Nope.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Good job.
And then, just looking at my list of stuff, I had sent the commissioners along with the meeting materials this week, just asking you if you might take a look at your activities spreadsheet that I gave you, and maybe let me know of your priorities or things that you'd like to be working on. I feel like before we know it, it's gonna be October.
Yep.
And we're gonna be smack in budget season, so how does that normally look between July and October? Of what? Are there things we need to put out RFPs for? Are there things we need to do that I can support you in setting up appointments or writing RFPs or whatever it is? So,
Two things that were on that list
yep,
that I find extremely aggravating,
yep,
that we have to deal with,
okay,
not you, with the issues.
yep.
And one of them is insurance.
Mm.
If we're thinking about looking at an alternate health insurance program, then I think now is when we should start investigating it, not 3 weeks or 2 weeks before it has to be done. And the other was doing another RFP for auditors. And I don't know how you feel about doing another one. We did one last year.
I think we should, because I think it's good to change auditors every 3 or 4 years. You know, we've had the same one for how many years?
4 or 5.
Yeah, I think it's, if we can get, yeah, I think we should send out an RFP for that.
So I can I'll find the old one, I'll find some samples and.
Yep. What do you think, David?
Do what?
What do you think about doing another RFP for auditor?
Well, I think we ought to send it out anyway, just because it's more than
Yeah.
$5,000.
Okay, so work
Whether,
on that.
and whether I'd switch or not, I don't think I would, but, we've got a kind of we've communications here with Melanson Heath that answers most of the delegation's questions, and, none of our New Hampshire county clients in recent years have been able to meet the requirement. Now, that was of 90 days, and they're not meeting the 120. This has affected governmental financial statements and reporting across the USA for towns, cities, and districts and counties. General accepting accounting principles. I mean, they scream and yell about the audit, but, and then this one here, if I read it properly, every year, because you can't get the audit for whatever year you're working on, I think, what did Kathy say? That we've always put in, for instance, if it's 2019, we've always put in the audit for 2018 because the 2019 wasn't done. So we always lagged by 1 year. Then she lists all of the reasons why they're late this year. I don't see, I think we ought to go out for bid, but I don't see any reason to change at this point.
Okay, so I'll find the old RFP. Would you like me to do that? Maybe some samples or something for you to.
Well, yeah, but I'm more concerned about where it gets put. You know, supposedly last year it was, what do they call it, specifically solicited from different,
Direct solicited?
direct
Oh,
solicited,
Okay.
versus, I don't know how, putting it in Manchester paper or Portland paper.
Let's not go to Maine after that experience.
We also have the opportunity to use the classifieds on the New Hampshire Municipal Association website, which there's a lot of organizations.
We belong to that.
Tied into it,
organization.
you can do that as well. And then on the health insurance one, which is timely because you have a nursing home contract that you're about to renegotiate, there was talk about hiring or working with an insurance consultant. Did that go anywhere?
That was David's suggestion.
Yes, and he wrote back and said, keep him posted, so, I'm sure he gets a fee, so. I
You
don't
might
know.
ask him what the procedure is, you know, whether,
Okay, that's a fair question.
you know, how he does it and what's expected of us and him and,
Well, isn't that, excuse me.
yes, sir.
Isn't that who that guy was? What was his name?
Mr. Ricci.
Ricci.
He's a insurance broker.
He's a
which is-
broker, yes.
He just was selling Anthem, if you will, that day or that time frame.
Right, that's
Well,
what
he
he was.
came back after he heard us talking about it and
Yeah.
said he was an independent, something or other. and yet he's selling for somebody. I don't see how he can be
Or
independent.
probably gets a percentage, wasn't that the 2%, or there was something?
Yeah,
2%?
he got a percent from
It's
Anthem.
usually how they
From
work, they
Anthem,
get
yeah.
it, if you sell something, you get a percentage of the sale.
And then it came out of what they were gonna charge us, so.
Okay, so we'll wait, Commissioner
Yeah.
Baxton's gonna follow up with that broker, or
Yes.
that consultant first.
Yep.
All right, and that's enough to work on for this.
And, okay, except for the annual report, what would you like me to do with the annual report? So we have a couple of options. We can publish, the commissioners voted to publish a statement from the auditor. And so she did send something, but in the meantime, I also yesterday got a copy of the electronic 2018 final audit. It's now been uploaded to the county website, and so we could follow what Ms. Burke mentions in her email, that Belknap usually publishes the prior year in their current county report. We could do a letter, we could do a supplement. What would you like me to do?
My question is, was the 2018 report and letter ever sent to the different select boards in the state, in the county?
By everything I can determine, no, it wasn't. So
I
that leads to my other part of this conversation, but for the annual report, because I was also gonna ask if you want me to send out the 2018 now as a supplement. I mean, we should have sent it a year ago, but now we have it, so do you want me to send out the 2018?
I would certainly send it out.
Immediately, if it
Okay.
hasn't already been.
Nope, I just got it yesterday, so, but I don't think it's been sent out, so I'll do that.
That's the management letter and the,
Yep.
Well, could we see the management letter?
It's
Did we-
actually,
Didn't we see that? We
No.
saw that.
did
What
we?
is,
I
Yeah,
think we did.
we saw all of that. I'm just wondering why it wasn't sent out.
I don't know.
What is the date on the management letter?
If I can just look up, I'm looking up the email that Cheryl sent me when she sent it to me. Because I had to go ask the auditor for a copy because we didn't have one here. She said there is no management letter. There is a governance letter, which is required auditor communication to those charged with governance, and it's attached. So she sent the governance letter. There is no management letter.
I have read a management letter. We have read a management letter.
For the 2018 audit, you think?
Oh, I have no idea what year it was, but I've read the management letter.
We read something that looked like a management letter. I don't remember when it was. But how do you finish an audit without a management letter? That's part of the audit.
I don't know. I can't share my screen with you, I'm trying.
What is the date on that she sent? I've got it. I know I've got it in my file.
This governance letter is dated October 9th, 2019.
Yeah,
That must be what we read.
last,
Thinking it was a management letter.
okay.
It's,
And that was not sent out to the selectmen?
as far as I can tell, I've contacted a couple offices, they don't have it, so I don't, unless, they've all had changes of administrators too, so. But as far as I can tell, no.
Well, we probably should be sending it out. And
Okay.
doesn't DRA get a copy of that?
Yep, and it has been uploaded to the county website, and I was gonna send it out to the delegation too, today. Just so they have it, because I think
I'm pretty sure everyone got it last October when we got it.
the only thing I could find that we'd gotten, at least the delegation-wise, was the draft in September, because I still had that one on my other computer from back then. And
The draft of the management letter?
the draft of the management letter and the audit, it was dated September. This October document, I don't think the delegation
What
ever got it.
happened to Ken's emails? Because he was the one that was handling the annual report last year. He did, remember we got all the mix up with Joe and his report up there, and Ken was was the one that was taking care of that, and I would have thought that he sent it out, because it didn't come to me to send out. And,
I don't have access to any of that. That would be probably a John Rich question, maybe. But if you needed to go there.
I have copies of those emails to the company that's printing the annual report.
Oh,
In the annual report, but that letter was not in that, it wasn't
Right.
in the annual report, but I thought it was sent out as soon as we got it.
then
Apparently
don't
not.
spend any time looking for the letter in Ken's old email. Let's just send out a new letter with tell them that,
okay.
Just a short, this is a supplement to the 2018.
that we screwed up and didn't send it, and now we're
Okay.
sending it.
I will do that. And so for this audit, for this annual report this year, do you want me to print the 2018 audit in the 2019 annual report? Will always be, unless someday we have an audit within the 120 days, I suppose, but it sounds like what other counties do is publish the prior year's
Right.
one, so at least they're publishing.
Well-
If it's 2019 annual report, they put in the 2018 audit.
Yeah, that's,
Well, we could
Because there's
certainly,
something like 4 or 5 or 6 other counties that just can't make the RSA requirement.
then I just have the question, okay, so then we get to the 2019 audit being done in, say, October, November. I'm trying to interpret the law. Do I then need to send a supplement packet to each of the towns for the current year's audit?
I would do that anyways, and then put it in next year's annual report.
So if they get it twice, it's better than not at
Yeah.
all, obviously? So-
Yes.
Okay,
That's my feeling.
so I could put a note
It
in this
doesn't
year's
cost
annual
that much to
report,
send
like,
them.
this is the 2018 financial audit. When the 2019 is prepared, we will send a supplement, still have that notation this year.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was looking at some other reports, and like our audit's like 47 pages long, but they don't publish the whole thing in their annual report. They do like the balance sheet and a couple of other one-pagers, and then the management letter or governance letter. They don't print the actual whole 47 pages in their annual report. That's going to double the size of our annual report.
It's just the conclusion pages, which would be the totals.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, well, you were there the other day when we were looking at what they'd put in for 1970 something or
Yeah.
whatever. I think that's all that
It's
was
just a
in
few
there with
pages.
those, like the final totals,
Okay.
what was spent and what was taken in, and it may have been totals for each department.
I could also put a notation that the full audit document is available at the business office in Carroll County
Or on the website,
or on the website.
because all 48 pages on the
They're all
website.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing, one of our esteemed legislators on the delegation ought to try to correct the conflict in the RSA's. One portion of it says, if you're caused to have an audit, then you have the audit, but it doesn't say you have to have one. Another section says you will print your audit with your annual report. Well, if you don't have one, and you don't have to have one by law, what do? Go out and get an audit just for your annual report? That's a definite conflict in the law, and it ought to be corrected. Either you have to have an audit, and then you publish it, or you don't have to have one. Don't publish.
I actually think they ought to make a law that you have to have an annual report.
I would think at the
That
amount of
you- I mean,
monies
you have
we're
to have
talking
an
about
audit.
at a county, that, and but just for no other reason except transparency, that you'd have a
Audit.
audit.
I'd like to change the form of the audit a little bit, but that's all right.
And the last thing I had was that, I passed it out to you this morning. It wasn't in your packet, but it looks like this. And it's just some avenue information for you.
Oh, is that the one with the licenses on it?
Yep, yep. So,
But we-
there's,
It was in our packet or what?
Yeah, you can have this one if you want, if you didn't get.
Oh, I passed
Well, I
them on
saw it
down.
on you sent it to us last night or something.
No, I just did it this morning. So.
Yeah, I just passed them all down.
Did you find the contract?
Yeah, we have the contract in the office.
Did you look and see if training was part of that contract?
So Commissioner McCarthy had taken a copy or reviewed the contract, so maybe she could speak to that. I called Mr. Leary at Avenue to do, at Commissioner McCarthy's request to do some follow-up questions, so I don't know if you want to.
I believe training is only webinars that they supply. If we want on-premise training, it's an extra expense.
Yeah, can you pass this to Commissioner
I
Watson? He
really
can have that.
thought that our contract included on-site training. I believe
I thought it did.
there was a meeting where it said on-site training was included. It's in the minutes. I told you which date. Did you find that?
Yeah.
I've got to watch the film because that will verify it. But the phrase on-site training was included, was in the notes, in the minutes. So how it ended up in the minutes, I'm not sure, whether it was because Avenue was here telling us about it or somebody was telling us about the contract.
And my recollection was that they could offer additional or on-site training, but it was an extra cost. But
Yes.
you think it was included in the contract.
In
and
the
you reviewed
minutes.
the contract.
I did, but I
So-
might have misinterpreted, but
In the minutes,
Was that the delegation meeting when they were here? I can go back and watch that part of the
I
tape.
gave you the
for-
date. I forgot what the
Okay.
date was.
So the information I got yesterday
Right.
from him, which seems to conflict with those minutes, is that they can do on-site training, but the cost would be, I think it's, I don't have that in front of me now, but
It's
$2,500,
$2,500, yeah.
$3,000 to reimburse for the travel, the hotel, lodging, food, et cetera, and come on site. And then the other option is to do WebEx training. So there's,
I think the on-site training is much preferable.
and what the availability of that might be, we don't know. Because, the restrictions that are in place for people being able to travel and how many people can gather in a room and might delay that training, but I can't say for sure.
and then I thought that this was interesting too, that they can do a formal training on full current software via WebEx for 4 hours over 2 days, and that's $800 to $1,000, and that can be as many people that you want. So it might give all of us an understanding of how the avenue works.
Well, that's an interesting thought.
Wasn't it, we could have anywhere up to like 50 people at the
As many
webinar?
people as you want. When you're doing it remotely,
Yeah.
then you can have, I think, up to 200
It's a
people.
webinar, but that's for the current, not the new stuff, the current.
Current,
Right. And then you would,
and then they have the new, you can do that too.
That was my question is this webinar for the new purchasing module or are these webinars for what we have here now and just teaching people how to use what we have?
you can do both.
There's a price for doing what we have, but for the new, I think that's in the contract.
That's included.
That's
There's
included.
no 2 hours of training for each of the modules, the accounts payable and the purchasing, that's included in the contract, and that can be done via remote for all the department heads at once, rather than the finance director having to individually train people.
I think that's better.
And that was free.
That's free.
That's in the contract, yeah,
That's
it's
in the
included in the contract. Yeah.
And how did we decide who were going to be the licensees?
We didn't have any say in that.
We were told they
We were told by,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
They were the department heads and people that would be involved with auditing.
So it's $500 for each additional. I can see the need for at least 2 additional.
Well, I had asked if we couldn't have a commissioner's seat,
Yes.
that everybody that wanted could use whatever our password was. Because, I mean, I don't think they take your fingerprints to be just you.
Well, yeah, that was my thought, that the commissioners and Joe, the treasurer, I mean, he is the treasurer, he should have accessibility to this stuff.
Just to read only.
Just to read
He's
only.
not even on here.
No, I know.
But I think the commissioners should have accessibility to the read-only.
Yep, so that's what I thought, we could have one for the four, for the treasurer and the commissioners, and then, I don't know, the delegation seemed to want to have a public one, I don't know if we want to do that.
Do we have, are we committed to these people already?
I
We
don't-
signed a contract with them, yes, and it was
For 11 seats, but I don't,
11 seats.
Well, we haven't named, yes, we signed a contract for 11 licenses, but we haven't told them who they are yet.
No, I don't
So
believe
why
so.
can't we use the power of the chair here and drop some and put some in?
Well, there's 2 for the jail.
Well, first of all, what is new PO and new AP?
The new modules, the new purchasing order module and the new accounts payable modules
Okay,
that are getting installed.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, certainly I would think that Joe would be added and one of us would be added.
Well, that's what I was saying. You could have a computer in this building that had whatever accessibility you have to have on it, that any one of the 4 of us could sit down, put in the password, and use that computer.
well,
Yeah, in our office, why can't we have the password on my
Yeah.
computer or yours?
We
And
can
if we
all
come in,
access-
just sit down and look at it.
Yeah, or on Joe's computer. Joe has a computer down in your office?
He has a laptop.
yep,
Okay, so he doesn't have a computer solid.
but if he
But
has,
he certainly should be, as the treasurer, should have a license to look at it.
Yeah.
And why do we have my pal Dominic, why does he have to have a
Department
license?
heads. Department heads have to be able to look at it to check their budgets.
Those are all read-only.
Yeah.
They can look things up. The only people that can actually post anything are the 2 and,
Where does it say read only?
well, it says
or that's
lookup.
just,
It says lookup. See the column, it's the 3rd one, 4th one.
is GFS,
Yeah, GFS, and then if you look down,
that's close to it.
so the administrator is the
Oh,
finance
yeah,
director.
lookup was way down, okay, I
Yeah,
got it.
instead of read-only, it says lookup. But, and then the only 2 people that can write right now or enter things are the finance director and the bookkeeper.
That's in everything, but the
Yeah.
department heads can enter in the purchasing orders.
In the new, it looks like
In
entry
the
and
new
edit.
purchasing orders.
Yeah.
So they can, there must be a requisition in there someplace that they can fill
And
in.
these are the only things that they can look at on
Yeah.
their expenditure budgets and revenue budgets, that's all they can see?
Yeah,
Yeah, they
Or
can
that's
only-
all they can change?
that's the only things they can see are those specific accounts.
Okay.
Yep. So like the register of deeds can only see the deed stuff. The
they
jail.
can't see everybody's?
No, not according to this chart that the finance director provided, no. That their accounts that they can look up are specific to, and then it has the lines, yeah.
I don't see why Paula, who's the director of finance for the nursing home, doesn't have the ability to go in and do things with their budget. She can
Very,
only,
very good point.
she can only look at stuff? I mean, what are we paying for? I mean, that doesn't seem, I don't know.
And it also doesn't matter what capabilities they have as to the cost of each seat.
Right.
Right.
The cost is the same, no matter what their privileges are. That was one thing I didn't put in the notes, but.
And
Well, we might ask Paula why, because she may not have a need to. Seth might have
I was
more
gonna
of
say,
a
if he's
need
gonna be the
to.
purchasing manager, he should be,
I would think Paula, Seth, and Howie would be the three people, and Murray over there that needs to have have a license.
Well, no, because every department had, and I think isn't, who else have they got over there?
they've got, they have Paula, Howie, and Seth.
That's
But
all,
Look up only,
yeah, but those are the only ones from the nursing home.
And Bob Murray's on there too.
yeah, and Bob Murray.
Bob
Well, I don't think it's Bob is being the nursing home so much
is- I
as
know.
Yeah,
the whole place,
Well, it says all he has access
is to look up.
yeah.
is to look up the nursing home, capital, and IT. Oh, and then some other ones, I'm sorry.
So I,
That 9,500 is everything, isn't it, the everything account that they dumped everything into?
yeah. But I don't see why Paula doesn't have, I don't know.
Well,
We'll have to find her, ask her, we'll have to
Howie,
ask.
what do you think about that? Well, Howie, he's
I
Oh,
know, he's like, I didn't
Paula
talk
and
about all
Seth
this.
definitely need to have enter-access.
Yes,
Because ultimately, it'll simplify things for the county business office if we can post our revenues ourselves. Paula is more than willing, the present system doesn't quite provide for it, but the new system would. I don't need to enter, read access is fine for me, I'm not gonna change things, but Seth and Paula would definitely want to have full access.
I would think, Howie, that you'd wanna, as the administrator over there, that you'd wanna have everything available to you.
Well, you know, it's kind of like having the keys that you don't need. I shouldn't be changing things. I should be looking to the people who enter it if I see something that needs to be changed, so that there's never any question of people fiddling with the numbers. It's
So-
kind of a check and balance system where
Yep.
it's good to have read access, but the integrity of the data is always protected.
And you could go to Paula if you needed anything anyways, right?
Correct.
Anything else, ma'am?
And then the only other thing, like, on that same issue, I was messaging with Kathy that the server that's in the commissioner's office that has not been actually doing anything for a while now, so she's gonna work with, it's on her list of things to do to have that disconnected and taken care of by our IT person, so. That's it.
Okay, any questions for Melissa? Comments?
so, yeah, I do. So we discussed this, so are we gonna do, as we usually do, we just kind of forget about it and don't go back to it for weeks? I'd like to maybe put this on the agenda for next week and have Kathy here and ask some questions why these people aren't on there, or we just tell her, no, we want this changed, or what are we gonna do? Should we put it off till next week and get some answers, or?
Well, I think that it probably would be good if Howie and Paula and Seth and Kathy were all sent the same series of questions, like, would this be to the advantage of the county to have these people have full access? And if not, why not? And would they like full access? And if not, why not, or why they would?
Madam Chairman, I would think if you're purchasing a module that we paid big bucks for, that would come with a license to operate it without paying an additional charge. And if that's the case, why would we have to pay for a license for some guy if he's gonna do the purchasing and that's the purchasing module?
I don't think we're paying for these. If we want extra people on it, we have to pay.
I think
Oh, no, we're paying for each one of
Right,
those
but I
seats.
mean, that's what we have, the contract is with these
it
11.
was for 11.
Yeah,
But my question is, if we're buying the purchasing
That's
module, doesn't that come with an automatic license? Or do they just send the module out and say, okay, you figure out how to run it? That doesn't make any sense.
You mean, does it come with a seat,
C,
a
yes,
specific to it?
yes.
Well,
Do we pay for, I don't know if we pay for the finance director's seat
It's on there.
extra, or if it was always just included as the one free seat. That's not that would be a question for her. But
because we're paying for 11 seats, and one of them is hers.
Right.
I believe we're paying for 11 seats,
Yes.
and one of them is hers.
I'll go back and reread the contract again. Why don't we all do that? And
Yeah, if we could each have a copy of the contract, that would be good.
All right. And then do you want me to formulate that list of questions like you mentioned, and then send it out to commissioners, and you can each give me your
Right. And then
feedback?
if you've got
before-
anything else to add, you think about it or whatever.
I just don't want to, kind of just let this fade into the
Sounds,
horizon.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
I want to know what's the difference too between author and post and lookup. Author and post, entry and edit. I don't understand the difference.
what is your question?
Well, here it says author and post, and then down here it says entry and edit.
Oh, okay, I didn't see.
So what's the difference between those?
Between author and
post and
entry?
error.
Is that?
Yeah. I would think post and entry would be the same. But that's just because in math, we speak different languages sometimes. All right, any other questions for, moving on, you have nothing else for us?
No,
No?
I don't. Thank
Okay.
you.
Commissioner comments. Terry, do you have any comments?
Do I? I was trying, I think I was, this was one of them. Yes, I think that we should discuss hiring an additional person in the finance department. Restructuring the department, hiring someone, it's not fair, I feel, for Kathy to have the whole responsibility, whether it's the way she wants it or not. It's not right to have one person carrying the full load down there. And it's not fair to the county either, because if she's out, if she's sick, is that department going to come to a standstill? And we can't do that. And she doesn't need to put the hours in that she's putting in. So I think we really have to look into that. We have to do something about it.
We don't have any money to hire a person in the finance department. We only have money to hire a chief financial officer.
Well, then so
I
be it.
believe in the budget. Is that right? That's what the money was
Separate budget.
specifically for, chief financial. I had thought it was for another person in the finance department, but I don't believe it is. I looked up all those motions the other day, and I believe the motion was made for a chief financial officer, and there were two of them, and they were both, one was changed and one was kept. But I think, unless you can find one where it was changed from specific to.
We hire, I don't think that the delegation, even though that was the appropriation, I think we could get permission, maybe with a title change, or as long as the person is qualified. I don't think that they would give us a hard time on that. I don't know. I don't know what the legal ramifications are, but I think they feel that the same way we do. We need someone extra, we need another person down there that knows what's going on and can take over if need be, and to assist Kathy in whatever. So I can't speak, of course, for the delegation, but I think that's their main concern. that we have one person down there and it's carrying the load for the whole department.
Comment, David?
No. I agree with Terry though, if Kathy's out, we're sunk.
Yes. Maybe we should talk with Chris about some sort of a job description and procedure to advertise this.
I would like to. I mean, we're not talking here about eliminating anybody's position down there or anything else, but we have to ensure that we're covered. And as I say, it's not fair to the employee.
Well, I know I've asked people down there to please find somebody that we could hire. And there has been no result, so.
It's time for us to step in and put some,
Go to Chris, get
Yeah.
some sort of a job description type, something going.
We don't need a vote, we just.
Well, I'm wondering if we could ask him to come to drop in. and
He's right there.
Oh, Chris, just the person. Would you like to come join us, please?
My ears are ringing.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
For the
We-
public, could you introduce it again so the public knows who he is? Thank you.
Okay, this is Mr. Hero, our, I'm sorry, that was not very nice. I shouldn't have done that way. But I was just thinking, it flashed in my head, I saw your lovely display of medals, so.
Oh, thank you.
This is Chris Harrell, our HR director. And what we were talking about was we would like to start the procedure for finding a person to work in our finance department,
Okay.
another person that would be capable of what? You two? What?
Carrying on at 80% or 70% of what Kathy knows for an indeterminate amount of time.
A permanent position, though, right?
yes.
Yes.
But with Kathy, Chris, if something happens to her, we're sunk, because
Mm-hmm.
nobody else is really entirely, or even, well, possibly
Remotely.
partially cross-trained, but I don't think enough to run the department.
So what we need is like CFO abilities, but maybe not that job, that title.
So,
But that's what we need.
so are you looking, well, you just told me what you're looking for, but just so I can clarify in my brain, somebody like an assistant to Kathy or somebody on the same level as Kathy?
Probably the same level. Because I don't, I think we'd probably still be in the same position if we just hired an assistant. I think we need someone that's her level. Am I
You're
am I
being
wrong
clear.
in that?
Oh.
They have to be able to do
Everything.
county accounting. They have to be able to do all of the financial accounting.
Well, an assistant to Kathy would have the same, no, sorry. I was just gonna say would have the same abilities and knowledge level once trained to cover for
No
her.
training, they've got to come in knowing it. They've got to come in knowing it. That's the problem.
The only thing they have to learn when they get here is the names.
And the software.
And the software.
Well, that's what I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
learning, yeah,
They
just
should
the,
really have
specific.
knowledge of the software.
Yep.
If we could.
Revenue, municipal revenue and
Finance,
expenses. Government, all the government requirements, the government reports, it's a big job, it's a huge job. And the problem we have is we have one person doing what I believe is actually a two-person job.
Oh, okay,
That's what it is. We've got a person that's working way more than 8 hours a day to accomplish. And it would have to be somebody at least on the same level,
yep,
at least. Especially if they were going to, something happened and they were going to, be able to just take over, because there's no cross-training down there at all.
right,
And that's the big problem, I think, is,
Yep.
but it is, I believe it's a two-person job. It may even be more than a two-person job, I don't know.
so yeah, I'll gather some information about that, and we can,
Come up with an ad and show it to us.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
And since, just don't move for a few minutes. Any other commissioner comments that you had? No. David, commissioner comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Somewhere, I believe, in the delegation meeting, there was a question, I think it was by Cordelli, questioning what happened to the person that we hired to straighten out the finance office. We know what happened. I'm surprised that nobody, or maybe it was Joe's responsibility, I don't know, but somebody should have written to the delegation and told them what happened. That the gentleman didn't get his work done and on anything else.
Well, it was because of the COVID. He couldn't continue on with what he was doing.
Well, I don't care what the reason was, but somebody should have told,
And we severed
yeah, somebody should have told the delegation what happened, that he wasn't working here anymore. They don't even know that.
So if I could, the delegation gets a copy of the commissioner's minutes every week, so it was in the minutes when you voted to suspend your arrangement with Plodzik and Sanderson. So maybe I should have sent it separately to the delegation, if that's what you're suggesting.
Well, somewhere along the line, we've gotten a reputation here of we're so important that everybody looks at our minutes every day, or everybody looks to see if we're going out for bid for something. It doesn't happen. People get so busy, especially the delegation members, that they're not reading their own minutes, let alone reading ours. So we should be sending out, if we have a big event like that, and they've approved an appropriation for them, and we've had to sever the relationship, they ought to be getting a special email, because they read their special emails, and saying so-and-so is not, the COVID virus has prevented us from moving forward with this, so we sever the relationship, or anything you want to say. But I can guarantee you, they're not coming to the webpage and looking at our minutes.
They get the minutes sent right to them. They're emailed to them.
I don't care whether it comes by Pony Express, they're not reading them.
I can appreciate that some of them didn't know what happened, so feel free to send them to me and I'll help them if they have any questions too. For you.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The next one, and I think we've got a pretty good answer from our accountants. My question was, how many counties are in the same late situation? Well, we got their answer that none of them that they work with have been able to make 90 days, let alone 120.
May I suggest that we ask Melissa to call specifically each of the counties and ask them that? It's 10 phone calls, I know it's a lot of work, but just to get a real number,
Yes,
if we could.
and keep in mind that they said of their customers, Ben, I think they do 4 or 5 or 6 counties, so there's some other counties that don't use them. The next one is, and this one really shocked me. I thought I heard someone say in the delegation meeting that the books for 2019 are still open.
That was Commissioner McCarthy. She went downstairs and asked during the meeting, and that was what she was told, and came back and reported
Well,
that.
I'd like someone to come up here and explain why they're open. I mean, we're going into the second half of 2020 and the books aren't closed yet.
I asked Kathy, well, they sent me downstairs to ask Kathy, and I asked her, they wanted a date when the books were closed, and she said, well, I start in March, but they're not closed because I'm still working with the auditors on some things. So there was no closing date, and that's what I came up and said, that Kathy said that they were not closed.
So theoretically, we don't have to have an audit until November or December of this year and 30 days before the next year starts. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what doesn't make sense to me. I was talking with my accountant yesterday, and I re-asked him. I said, with my business, do I still close the books December 31st? And he said, yes. Any money that comes in after that goes into this year. Anything before that went into last year. And it's all based on closing the books that day, and then the revenue goes to the two. Now, that's for my little business. But I would think that a business like this, they would do the same thing.
Absolutely. Your situation was the same with mine when I was running my business. Why is it different? Yeah, it might take 2 or 3 days longer to close the books, but 7 months?
No, you just, that's it. Anything after January 1st goes in 2020. Anything before goes in 2019. But I have asked that of several times and been told that that's not the way the county finances work. So,
Madam Chair, when I'm making 9 phone calls, do you want me to inquire about if they have a policy about when the books are closed, or when they typically, or if they are, when they did, or I don't know.
that would be very
Yeah.
nice.
I can form an
Very
intelligent
good.
question of that. Okay.
Very good.
Okay.
And thank you for the correction. You're right. You only have to make 9 phone calls because we don't have to call Carroll County.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was asleep, yeah.
Yeah, me too. I know. I'm just, yeah.
Okay,
All
thank you.
right.
All right.
So I guess they're going to be busy this week.
Good.
All right, David, what else?
I think the next one should be non-public,
Okay, is that it?
yes.
All right.
Under which section, Commissioner Rapson, do you know?
Pardon me?
Which subsection of
Making somebody liable, I guess,
the reputation one?
yes.
Okay, that's already on your agenda, so you could add 2 and 3. Okay.
Okay, so we'll call that 3.
Yep.
Okay, and now my comment, my commissioner's thing involves this, and that is, we have in the budget $15,000 to do a wage and salary comparison. And I spoke with him about it, and he had some ideas. So would you like to share with the commissioners?
Sure. So my just quick idea about it is, and I've started to familiarize myself with the past performance audit, so now I understand where some of these
Thank you.
ideas are coming from. And so that is an option, hiring an outside company to do this audit. However, New Hampshire Employment Security does the same type of audit for the state every year or 2. So there's information available statewide wages per industry broken down per position type, entry level, median, experience level. And they break it down by areas too. So there's a statewide, there's Carroll County, and then there's also a Conway-Wolfboro. I don't know why they just don't label it Carroll County, but I think it's essentially the same thing. So, so we could use that initially to get the information. I think looking at, I saw one that somebody had hired, Municipal Resources, that company, Municipal Resources, I believe.
MRI,
And the report that they presented, which was very thorough and very good, and they do good work, is very similar to what the New Hampshire Employment Security does on their website anyway. So I guess if you guys would want to review that prior to making any decision on spending money on doing our own survey, it may be worthwhile. That's my opinion on that.
I think that's good. Yeah,
And I've already printed out some materials that you guys can look at this week.
okay.
Should I put that on the agenda next week?
Probably in 2 weeks, because I think there's quite a bit of information there to digest, isn't there?
Yeah.
Okay.
David?
As long as we can get, this is Carroll County, it isn't Portsmouth, it isn't Greenland, it isn't Hampton, it isn't,
Co-os.
it isn't Hanover. You know, as long as it concentrates on Carroll County, what other people are getting in Carroll County, I'm all for it. I'm not interested in the general
Yep.
payment.
The entire report, I think, is 166 pages. The Carroll County section's, I don't know, 15 pages. I don't remember. But I did print out the Carroll County portion versus the statewide, just so you could see, make a comparison if you wanted to. But it is county specific for this area.
That's excellent, because I don't know how many times I've used the phrase, we're not that place, we're not
Yep.
this, but we are Carroll County, we are. You
And
know,
I've said the
that's
same
what
thing.
you-
There is a difference between more urban pay rates versus, us. So.
May I ask a question
Certainly.
for this? Does that information from the state take into account the radius? I don't know the proper term, not what I'm thinking I've seen before,
Yeah.
is the radius, rather than this is how much this position gets paid for in Ospey or in Carroll County. It looks at the average commute distance for a community and takes that, if you will, circle
Right.
into account. So
Yeah.
if the average commute distance, I live in Effingham, I think the average commute distance is probably 45 minutes. So does it go 45 minutes in each direction and make a circle, or does it just say this is what the position gets paid in Effingham and in Carroll County?
There's
I don't know the right terminology.
they break it down on how they gather the information, and I honestly haven't read that.
Okay.
But if you look through it, they have a map that shows the breakdown of, here's the state, here's the, this is the area we surveyed, these are the towns. And I think, they would survey Conway, a nurse in Conway makes $30 an hour or whatever, a nurse in Wolfboro makes 32 or whatever, and then average that for the Conway-Wolfboro table.
But if she lives in Conway and she goes to Portland, it would be, using an average of the whole circle, if you will. I've seen that type of study before, but anyway, I don't mean to get into
I'm assuming it's an average of the survey of the wages within that area, not taking into account any travel time or anything
Yeah,
like
not
that.
extenuating
Because
circumstances.
in rural areas, people tend to,
Yep.
the radius is much bigger than just,
Yeah.
town to town, so that's something to consider.
But it is, but the results are for an area, not just
Okay.
the town breakdowns.
Thank you, Chris.
David?
I think that's a very valid comment. You can get down to the end of Brown Ridge Road at 16 and sit there at between 6 and 7:30 in the morning and watch all the cars going to Portsmouth where the wages are higher. And then it comes back and reports that Carroll County's Ossipee or Effingham's wages are X, and really, it should be where the money, I would think, is where the money is earned, not
It is.
where the resident.
Oh,
The
I
state
understand what you're
report
saying,
is-
yes. Yep, and that, I believe that's exactly what it
The
is.
state, the report he's talking about, I think, is just what businesses, et cetera, in this particular area are paying, not what the residents are actually earning. Because the residents earning are earning all.
If it's what they're paying, that
Yep,
takes
That's
some
what
of the
it is.
pain out of it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what.
And that's, and if I could, so that's like where we're so close to, say, Stratford County. If Stratford County's wages are this and Carroll County's wages are that, and the person lives in Wakefield, which way are you going in the morning?
Well, those are
Probably
personal
south.
choices.
Right, but I know, but I think in Effingham, it's the flood of people every day out of here.
That-
Boston, Portsmouth, Portland, just,
But that doesn't have any influence on what the businesses here are paying. It's,
And I think if in, I could be ignorant, but I think the goal of having that wage survey was so we could start creating some pay grade
right.
things for each
Yeah.
position. And I forget where I was going with this. I think the way it's presented, I don't know if this was what I was originally going to say or not, I kind of forget, but the way this information is presented in the New Hampshire Employment Security reports is set up real nice to make that type of wage grade, an entry-level position, somebody with 3 to 5 years, and then somebody with, however you want to set it up, 7 to 10 years or whatever, so. But I'll get that together, I'll make some copies for the commissioners to review.
All right, thank you
Great
very much.
So, yep.
Okay, that's all I had. Anybody else?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
This isn't on my list, but are we going to talk about a supplementary budget?
and Chairman Damaris is online, and if you do, she had some public comment or conversation with you if you'd like. Just letting you know, she typed it in a little chat.
We got an extensive email from her this morning.
Oh, I didn't get it. I'm sorry.
It's on your, I just passed it down, Laura brought it up.
Oh,
Do you want me to move or?
No.
Oh, I didn't know if I was in the way.
no, you're
No.
good. Are you staying for non-public?
Yes.
Okay. I don't- Is this it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh.
Is Edie on?
She is, yeah.
Can she hear us?
Um,
It looks like she's muted, isn't she?
Oh, she,
Yes,
there she is.
I am muted because it is your meeting and I was waiting.
Okay.
Good morning.
Could I speak to Edie?
Certainly,
morning.
go right ahead.
Edie, I responded to your very nice email this morning. Has the delegation ever set up a procedure for accepting grants, which is one of the stipulations that you cite in 2414? I don't find any evidence that they ever have.
I know that we approve grants when we do the budget. We have a whole section on grants, and we approve the receipt of the grant and the expenditure of the grant. There is another RSA that, off the top of my head, I don't remember the name, and I've been, while you've been talking, I've kind of been listening and cleaning off piles of papers, and I've lost it. But there is an RSA that says that the commissioners cannot expend funds that have not been approved by the delegation. And I don't know what the number of that is off the top of my head. So that is the issue, the legal issue, that I think comes into play here when we do this.
I think that's 2415. I think that's 2415, Edie.
Okay.
It's the
I'm
one
not
that-
a remember numbers in my head person, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not either. I
It is-
just read it this morning. That's all I can remember.
It is 24:15, Commissioner Babson, it is.
2415, isn't it?
Yep, no county commissioner shall pay or agree to pay or
Yeah.
incur any liability for a sum of money for which the county convention has not made an appropriation.
So that's the issue, and we're happy to work with you, and I'm happy to call a meeting as soon as noticing will permit, but I feel that we need to cover that base.
Even though this is emergency funding, under an emergency,
I think in that same bill, that same RSA, it says there's only one type of emergency that works for, and I think it's a war,
That's appropriate.
if I remember correctly.
So it
Well,
is-
Edie, my problem is, as soon as you say supplementary budget, the public immediately thinks you're in financial trouble somewhere along the line. And my suggestion was that the delegation and the commissioners together make a motion for a supplementary budget stating that it will not affect the tax rate at all, and we're just doing this for transparency so that nobody thinks that anybody hasn't handled the money properly.
Absolutely. You know, I have no issue with that. I just feel that we need to be open and as much as we can be with what we're doing. And there's a great deal of money flowing around with the COVID funding, and I think that people have a right to know where it's going. And we have to have a public hearing, which we would definitely do when we made the appropriation.
Well, do you have a problem with doing it as the two bodies doing it jointly?
I don't know.
what number would you use? I mean, we just got another 79,000 from Gopher, I think.
So Madam Chair, in
Yeah,
your-
well, I think we have to go with what we have and keep it up to date. And I don't know how we could word the resolution, or what process we can set up to keep it up and to update it. You know, if we have to meet monthly, we'll have to meet monthly.
And
Excuse
these
me.
laws speak of the commissioners and the delegation's executive board, so you wouldn't have to include, except the 4 members or 3 members of the executive committee, in anything that you do. Of course, the 3 of us have to be there, but.
If I might, Jason, you've been keeping up on most of what the other counties are doing. Do you know how they're handling this?
Everybody's a little different. Comeau County did do a supplemental budget. Some of the other counties in the beginning, like Sullivan, in the beginning,
Jason's here with us. He's been keeping up on all the phone calls from the Association of Counties for us.
Like Sullivan County, when they do their budget, they put a thing in their beginning of the year that the commissioners can accept money as it comes in under revenue, and they don't have to go back. Some places have it set up that it's a pass-through on their revenue back out again. So there is no standard, I guess, to put it that way. Each county is doing something a little different when you talk to them. So you have 10 people doing different things. That's basically what I can give you. So everybody's got it set up a little bit differently.
And I do know that all of the income we've been getting has been going into an emergency fund line or something.
Correct.
It's a separate line that Kathy created.
Under the 200, she created under 200 fund, I believe, under grants.
Yep.
In anticipation of this emergency stuff. So a line was created for these emergency funds to come into and flow out of, which was created before this money started coming in. So she anticipated this was going to happen, and it was created that way. That's the best I can give you.
so it should be easy to come up with the numbers.
As to what's already come in,
And
Right.
not what's anticipated, and because we have no idea what's anticipated or how long this is going to go on for. So it would almost be a month-by-month meeting.
For supplemental appropriation, we have to take care of it by September for the setting of the county tax rate. And then Representative Avaloni had mentioned at the delegation meeting that if we have to carry some of it over into the 2021 budget to accept and expend, kind of like the encumbrance process,
In reverse.
then we could carry it over into 2021 if there's any straggling amounts of money
Right.
after September.
Jason, you had something you wanted to
What I
add?
got from other counties was they kind of came to an arrangement, a lot of them is, if you work with the delegations and just do a blanket of, during the emergency funds that come in for the COVID, authorizes the county to accept it and expend it, because it's not costing the taxpayers any money, because it's, some is reimbursing we've already spent, and it's other money that we didn't have, and they are not going back to the table each month and doing supplemental budgets. Doesn't seem like there's an appetite around the different counties that do that each month, the supplemental
Right.
budgets.
So rather than give a number, they're just calling it emergency funds, revenue of
Edie's gonna
emergency
handle.
funds. Yes, Edie?
Yeah. I have a question because some of the things that have come up, and I know when I discussed this with COAS and why they were doing it, is some of the funding does have impact. For instance, the FICA cost and the local cost for some of the salary increases that are given for the stipends. So they found there were some different areas that they needed to look at. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I think it's something that we need to have that discussion and to look at it. And
Well, I think what
do
Val-
appreciate that keeping it straight.
I think
But
they're hoping that
keep it separate.
I think that Carroll County figures that some of the gopher funds are going to keep it balanced. But it probably would be good to at least have some sort of a loophole in whatever we do, so that if it goes too much or
lost
too
sound.
little, we can. What?
Right. But I think it's something that the delegation, that members of the delegation would be more comfortable if they had answers to some of these issues. And I think that perhaps dealing with it together would be a good idea.
And I'll just say that the Gopher Fund, one of the things they did say was, yes, and that's why you should talk to delegation, the increase to you, the payroll taxes and stuff, absolutely, because you don't have it in there. You're going to have to pay that. Then apply to Gopher, and Gopher said that is one of the things that is reimbursable, so they will reimburse that, but you're correct, Edie, that you're going to have to expend it that's not there and then get reimbursed. So you do need to have that conversation. At least, that's my humble opinion.
That's the other way around, right. So, what do you two think about doing it like David was suggesting, having the commissioners and the delegation, or just the executive committee, is that all you think we need?
I think that's what the law says, I think.
About doing a supplemental
I
budget?
can check with the delegation and see too what their feelings are. I know some people feel strongly, and sometimes having people involved is more helpful than on the outside asking lots of questions. So I think the more we can involve those who are concerned, I think that the situation will be handled more smoothly.
I have a question. Does the law require that the commissioners set the supplemental budget hearing, or is that the delegation that sets that?
I have
Yes.
I believe COAS did it,
So 24.
delegation.
24:14-A says the commissioners may apply to the county convention for an appropriation to be made subsequent to the adoption of the annual budget, or the convention on its own may propose a supplemental appropriation. Once the commissioners apply to the convention, then the clerk has to send notice to each member of the delegation and all boards of selectmen, and then the convention schedules a public hearing within 30 days of the mailing.
So does
either way,
that
it's-
translate, we ask the delegation and then they go ahead and do the hearing?
And then it becomes a delegation process, yep, just like last time the county had one, which is a totally different circumstance, but we've,
Well, that's what I'm afraid of, because the last one was, we were supposed to be $500,000 overdrawn, and everybody knew about it, and I'm just so afraid that if you mention supplemental, they're gonna think that's right
Yep.
where we're at again, and it's not. I mean, everyone's been telling about how this COVID was gonna put us in the hole, and it actually, we're ahead, so.
And Madam Chair, if I might, I think a lot of that has to do with communication with the public, a PR campaign, if you will, to an extent, so that the letter, when you send the notice out to the selectmen, is very clear about what's going on. And also, you know, maybe get in touch with the local press before they call you to get that message out to them about what's going on. Not just send the public notice to the paper and then have them pick it up and start calling. Do an actual PR, you know, get ahead of it so that that message is clear.
So what you're probably looking for is for the commissioners to make a motion to ask the delegation for a supplemental hearing to accept revenue. Yep.
A supplemental budget.
Madam Chair, you have a sample in your packet. I don't know if you care to see
No,
that.
I've seen the one from
Okay.
COAS, but
So it's revenue and expenditures, and then they balance.
right, but the commission, what the request for the commissioners to make to the delegation
Okay.
is to have a supplemental budget to address accepting revenue and then spending it, I guess, but
Accepting revenue to
Revenue
cover,
and expenditures.
to
Revenue
cover
and
expenditures.
Yep.
And there'll be no effect on your tax rate. It's done for, we're doing this for transparency.
sounds good. You want to make it?
Yeah, I'll make it.
Ask the convention for a supplemental budget for the purpose of accepting revenue.
Can you hear that, Edie?
Sorry. Edie, Chairman Damaris, can you hear me? It's Melissa. Hi. I don't know if she can.
Is it because this is,
Nobody switched anything and she's not
Didn't do
muted, is
anything.
she?
is she muted? Can you hear us, Edie?
Okay.
Now you can?
No.
No.
Howie, can you hear us?
Well, that answers that.
I can hear you.
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I can now, but there was a period of silence there for a bit.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it looked like you all froze, so.
Try Edie again.
Edie,
see.
can you hear us today?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, good.
I didn't know if you were all looking at the wall. I didn't know if you expected me to speak, but I thought he made a motion. I was waiting to hear someone second it.
Okay.
Well
From
done.
So ask
Commissioners.
the convention for a supplemental budget for the purpose of accepting revenue and
Expenditures.
expending funds.
Expending the same revenue?
I don't know how we want to
Why
say
why
it.
don't we make it simple?
I was trying to-
Accepting revenue from
So
the
COVID,
federal,
COVID-related,
I think their second paragraph kind
can
of
I
says
see
it
that?
all.
Do you mind?
Well, that's just so long and involved.
No.
And by the time you get all the way to the end, you don't know what it's doing. That was why I was trying to keep it short and
Yeah.
sweet, so people could hear it and know that we were just accepting revenue because of the emergency, and we're spending it.
Well, that's what that one sentence says, kind of.
Sorry.
I feel better. They're all wordsmiths, and I'm just
I
working
know, I
numbers.
just feel like it's not coming to me right now. I have, and let me see if I have the email from the Coas County Administrator. I think it included their letter to the convention.
I've got an idea. Why don't we just make a motion to send a letter to the convention asking for a supplemental hearing for the COVID finances, period, and then we'll let Melissa write it.
It's okay.
Okay, I'll second.
With assistance from the clerk. How's that? Does that work for you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I just don't want either the delegation or the commissioners to people think that it's a financial problem and one of us is to blame. We're doing this for the public, and the public should understand that it's just for transparency and it doesn't affect the tax rate. And nobody's gonna get blamed.
Okay.
No, blame, no, because I think we've done a fantastic job, the finance department and the nursing home and the GEO and all the forms and all the requests and all of the keeping track of this grant and that grant and tracking the money and everything. I think we've done a fantastic job, and the amount of money that has come in, you're right. Having transparency as to where it came from and where it's going is important, but I think that everybody should be congratulated on the effort and the results of getting it, because had we not gotten it, we would have been, financially in an awful bind. I think between the governor and the president, having this funding has just been a godsend. But they just didn't give it to us. Everybody had to fill out all kinds of forms and keep track of records. And I mean, it's been, for the department heads and the finance department, it's been a tremendous amount of added work.
Madam Chair, I have Commissioner Babson as the motioner. I'm
Yep.
sorry, who seconded it?
Me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, Edie, you're gonna get a letter, Melissa's gonna send it, asking for a supplemental. Please do not have it, we're also trying to set up for July 20th for the annex building committee at 10 o'clock on July 20th. So if you could schedule this meeting for some other time, we'd be very appreciative.
Okay,
Okay.
will do. I'll be in touch with you for what will work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming to join us today.
You're welcome. It's been very interesting. Thank you. And thank you also for addressing the issue in the financial office. That is a big relief. That's something that's concerned us for a very long time, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else? Is there any other public input? Is there any media questions? All right, Mr. Clerk,
Yep.
would you like to read us into non-public, please?
Yes.
You got your
Make a
job back.
motion that we go into non-public under Session 1. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him or her, unless the employee affected, one, has the right to a meeting, and two, request the meeting be open, in which case the request will be granted. And session, I think I forgot to read it's an RSA 91A:3, Roman 2, small a. Session 2 is RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2, parentheses, small c. Matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the public body itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. And that should be Session 3 also.
Second it?
I'll second.
All those in favor, roll call, please.
Commissioner Babson?
Yes.
Commissioner Bevar?
Yes.
Commissioner McCarthy?
Yes.
Gosh, I miss doing that.
No, no. All right, we'll take a 5-minute recess.
11:51.
Ed's coming in to, thank you.
I gotta get something.
1 o'clock, isn't it?
1:10.
Yes, ma'am, ready.
Are we ready? Okay, somebody make a motion.
I'll make a,
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to come out of non-public.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 I make a motion that we seal session 1, 2, and 3.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are done.